Matt Porter, the Gadget Man's on the show with his own theme tune. Hello, Matt.
Hello there, how are you?
Very well. From Matt Porter Web Design, the Gadget Man is here to tell us all we need to know about dash cams then. Now, we heard with Mark on The Breakfast Show, Matt, this morning, to be serious for a moment, the graphic detail of a lady whose life was lost as a result of a lorry, an HGV, failing to stop and hitting the back of her car. Much of the evidence in that case brought about by a dash cam, which does suggest that they have a role to play, Matt.
They do have a role to play. Dash cams, many people still aren't aware that a dash cam is considered a independent witness to any accident or crime even. So if you have dash cam footage of something like that, then it is admissible as an independent witness.
Now, there is a downside. Well, some folk might see it as a downside, at least, that a dash cam footage can be seized by the police and used against you. Your own dash cam can be used against you.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I guess that's the perhaps a negative to the whole thing. Maybe it's a negative. I don't know. Maybe it's a legitimate reason to there's obviously a legitimate reason to seize that footage. So yes, there is obviously that concern.
Having said that, we've had folk in touch with us only this morning saying, I've had one for about a year now. This is from a lady, I think over in Colchester, who said, since I've had it and have reviewed the footage on it regularly, it has improved my driving. Now, that's interesting.
Well, I think that's very true. I think that people are aware that, people have dash cams in their cars. In fact, you'll find lots of motorcyclists have helmet cams, cyclists have helmet cams on their bikes. And in fact, I used to have one. So that does kind of make other drivers think twice about shouting abuse and hooting their horns and perhaps saying things they shouldn't. And secondly, it has the reverse, which means if you have one yourself, you may be less likely to start doing the same thing yourself, knowing that it could be recorded.
Yeah, absolutely. And surely insurance companies benefit from these devices to such a degree that some do offer discounts, don't they?
They do. There are other technology as well that they will offer to install in cars, which are things like trackers, and software on on mobile phones, which will also record your driving habits. I remember dealing with someone last year, in fact, who had sent their car to be repaired. And whilst it was being repaired, the repair garage took it for a test drive and sped. And they had a letter or an email from their insurance company saying that their insurance was going to be cancelled because they'd broken the speed limit. So, yeah. So obviously they once they received confirmation that the car wasn't in their hands when this happened and everything was okay. So yes, there are lots of incentives for our insurance to be lower, and dash cams are one of those things.
It's unlikely it'll ever be mandatory, but a lot of people may well have a dash cam on their Christmas list this year because they appreciate the benefits of them. So, Matt, what do we buy? There's loads of them.
Currently, I'm actually testing one. There's a company called Nextbase who sent me one a couple of weeks ago, a 422GW dash cam, about £130, and that has some really very nice functionality on it. It will, if you set it up correctly before you start off, if you were to be in an accident, it will detect that you've had a serious accident, so it would be looking at the speed of the vehicle and all of those kind of things and the G-forces it was being recorded. It will actually notify the emergency services if you have an accident. You get like a period of confirmation that you have to make, so when it detects that something like that may have happened, it will then ask questions. It will notify you, ask you to pick your phone up and do things like that to ensure that you are okay. If you don't follow those instructions, then it will notify the emergency services and tell them where you are, which is quite a nice function to have on a dash cam. Some cars do have that functionality built into them as well. I've come across a few of those.
A lot of them have satellite tracking, but they have the GPS, so they're able to record speed and factors like that as well, aren't they? And obviously location, where you were.
Yes, that's right. I mean, this one will actually record your location. It will also, if you've set it up, it will also notify the emergency services of your blood type, if you've got any particular illnesses and things like that. So it does quite a detailed notification, which is great. It's a great comfort to people. I think that if you have an accident in a rural area and no one finds you for hours on end, yeah.
You can get them cheaper, of course.
Of course, yeah, there's a whole range of prices and you get what you pay for. This particular one also has the functionality where you can plug in a rear view camera into it. So you can have front facing and rear, and that rear can be set to point into the cockpit of the car. It can also get set to point out the back window of the car as well. So it's like a front and rear monitoring system.
One thing that does trouble me slightly, Matt, and I've seen this quite a lot, you probably have as well, is that nearly all of them operate from what we would call the cigarette lighter socket, the 12-volt socket. So what you've got is a dash cam on the windscreen and then this dangling wire coming down. That's got to be a bit of a distraction. We've got to sort that out somehow. There's got to be a better way of fitting dash cams.
This particular camera comes with its own adapter with a very, very long cable and the tool to install the cable and hide it into the pockets or whatever of your car. The door edges and things like that. So there is sufficient cable length to feed that very, very nicely. And take it to a garage, ask them to fit it. They'll do it for a very reasonable amount of money. And like I said, they give you the little plastic tool as well to just lever the skirting, if you like, of the car, and you can feed that cable in and it's nice and tidied away. Yeah, you don't want to be having cables dangling around everywhere.
There you go. Would you definitely insist on having both front and rear, Matt?
I've tried a couple in the past with front and rear. I think definitely I've seen footage online where people have recorded cars coming up behind them and driving very, very dangerously. So if you can, then have rear facing. Some can affix to the back of the back screen. Some can fit in the car and kind of zoom out to the back from the front. So that there's plenty of things. And also this particular camera as well has functionality that if you do have something that happens that you do want to notify the police, they have in place agreements with several police forces, a number of police forces around the UK, where they have a function where you can upload the video directly to report the crime directly to the police.
Because that's another area, where we're encouraged to do that, but sometimes it can be a bit of a faff. You're right. And also, don't forget the little SD card. You need to buy one of those as well.
Yeah, some of them come with an SD card, some don't. SD cards are not terribly expensive at the moment. If you do, with these dash cams now, as you record them, it's a bit like a tape that you used to have on a loop, where you get to the end of it, it starts recording over the beginning, and that's exactly what it does with these SD cards. It will record until it's full and then start recording over the very oldest part of the video. You'll still get a good couple of days worth of footage on it.
Matt Porter, the Gadget Man from Matt Porter Web Design. Have a great Christmas, Matt. Great talking to you.
Too.